Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kenny Lamons here with Medicare Millennials. Welcome to my channel. This is where we help you learn how to sell Medicare plans year-round and how to build a large, successful Medicare book of business. And today is going to be a very practical video. I'm going to break down the 4 basic components that show the nuts and bolts of how to sell Medicare plans to people who are turning 65. For those of you that don't know, selling Medicare plans to those turning 65 are the most fruitful types of people you can sell Medicare plans to. They're going to stay on the books the longest on average, and they pay the best commission and give you the best opportunity to cross-sell. If you can master these 4 basic components of how to sell to anybody turning 65, then you can find true and lasting success in the Medicare sales business. So, I'm going to keep this pretty high level. This is the nuts and bolts so that you can apply this to any situation with somebody when they're turning 65 to successfully sell them a Medicare plan each and every time that somebody approaches you or you have the opportunity with somebody coming up on 65. Okay, so let's break this down into 4 basic parts. Step number 1, every single time that we get a prospect that is coming up on turning 65, we need to start with a needs assessment, or otherwise known as a fact finder. And for me, I've always called it a needs assessment because we want to assess their needs. The reality is, it's possible that somebody could be approaching 65 and they may need to delay Medicare. That's fine too. Step 1 has nothing to do with a product or us making a sale. It's simply for us to assess the needs of the prospect. So it really does 3 main things for you. Number 1, it's going to establish credibility. So by this process of asking them questions and evaluating their needs, you are going to show what you know. Just the fact that you know how to ask pointed questions that are going to establish what their needs are really builds up a lot of credibility I've found over the years. So really, by the time I get done with the needs assessment, it's hook, line, and sinker. I know they're going to be my client, whether it's today or sometime in the future. Number 2, this is the part of the process that streamlines the rest of the process. So if you get all of the necessary information and you do it in a timely and efficient manner, you're going to streamline and make this process as quick and painless as possible for you as well as for the prospect. And number 3, you're going to obviously collect all the information you need to make a wise recommendation for what Medicare plan is going to be the best fit for this individual person. So a couple of notes. Every turning 65 is going to be different. One may need a Medicare supplement. Some may need drug coverage. Some may not. Some may prefer Medicare Advantage or a special needs plan. But this needs assessment is going to narrow that down and funnel them into right where they need to be. Now, I'm not going to do an in-depth needs assessment right now. This is the nuts and bolts. This is like the basic components of a sale. But the types of questions you're going to be asking may go something like this. Oh, hey, Betty, I know you're turning 65 in May, so great job calling me now or meeting me now because we're well ahead of schedule. We're going to make sure that by the time May rolls around, you already have everything set up exactly as you need it. So are you currently working now? Do you currently receive coverage through your employer? Do you already receive your Social Security? How much are you paying for that coverage? Do you have a spouse that's already on Medicare? Okay, so this is just an example of the types of questions that are going to lay the foundation so we know how to proceed. Now let's move on to step number 2, which is to educate. So in the needs assessment, we don't want to throw up a bunch of information on them. They're already overwhelmed with 1 million phone calls, 1 million mailers, probably trying to do their own research online, getting different answers from different people. So we want to do a nice thorough needs assessment before we begin to give them information. Why? Because by that needs assessment, we can eliminate giving them too much information. Let me give you one clear example. If you're on the phone with Betty and she mentions to you that she's low income and she qualifies for the state Medicaid program, then we know that the IRMA, or that income-related Medicare premium adjustment, won't apply to her. We don't have to spend a lot of time educating on the IRMA in that scenario, okay? Or for another example, If they tell you no matter what, they only want a Medigap plan or a Medicare supplement, period, they're not interested in these Medicare Advantage plans, then we can spend a lot less time on Medicare Advantage and go right into educating on a Medicare supplement. So the needs assessment has allowed us to narrow down what we educate them on. So here's the three main things you're always going to educate on. Number one is just the basics of Medicare. Part A, hospital. Part B, outpatient doctor's visits. Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. And Part D, which is a standalone drug plan. So we're going to explain the basics of that using, depending on the education level of the client, you'll have to put more time into this than others. Okay, but today, obviously, I can't fit in an entire training on that. We're going to educate on the basics of Medicare. We're going to narrow down if they're going to need, once they have A and B, a Medicare supplement plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, or if they are going to be sticking with something like their employer coverage. Why might they do that? Maybe in the needs assessment, we found out that they don't love their employer coverage, but their spouse is on it. They're not 65 yet, and there's no other affordable way for their spouse to get coverage. Okay, then we may need to educate on how they won't be penalized if they decide to stay on their employer coverage until their spouse turns 65. Again, I don't want to get too technical today, but we're gonna help them to educate them on their options, mainly Medicare supplement with a drug plan and a Medicare Advantage plan. And then finally, we're going to educate on some of the more technical aspects like that IRMA, the income-related Medicare premium adjustment, so that if they're going to pay more than the standard Medicare Part B premium, we educate them on that. Or vice versa, if they're very low income, and based on their income, you think they may qualify for the state Medicaid assistance, you can direct them on how to apply for that as well. Okay, so some of the more technical things we'll educate on. The third thing that we're going to do, we have now collected all the information we need. We have educated them on the basics, and which has really helped narrow a lot of things down. And now we're going to do our real work, which our work now is to research the plans available in their area, the price, the benefits, what they offer, what's covered, what's not, and quote them either just one plan at that point or a much smaller selection of plans based on the fact finding that we did. Now let me explain this number 3 step of researching and quoting. A lot of times I'm speaking with T65s 2, 3, or more months ahead of their start date, okay, before they turn 65. Therefore, I'm always doing number 1, needs assessment, number 2, educating on that first contact, if at all possible. I want to do as much of that on the front end as possible. But when at this point, I may now leave them, right, get off of the phone, leave the appointment, and go really spend some time in my office on my own time researching, because that's the hook, right? Like I've got all this information, I've educated you about the basics, and now on our, they may have some work to do. They may say, okay, I'm going to log into my Social Security account and apply for Medicare today. They may say I need to go talk to my employer, find out if they're going to continue offering me coverage. There's probably going to be something for them to do. And for us, that gives us a hook to say, now we're going to talk 1 week from today. By that time, I will have done all the legwork, all the research based on everything you gave me to provide the best options available to you. Okay? And that's kind of our hook for that next appointment. Now, there are some cases. Somebody calls you. Betty says, I already got my Medicare card in the mail. It starts April 1st. I already know what I want. I want the same plan as my sister. Super straightforward. Doesn't have a spouse. Hey, and in that case, you may be in a situation where you're able to move right into quoting them a plan and product presentation, okay, which moves us to our 4th step. But that's not as common when you're working with T65s. You may hypothetically close the deal day 1, but a lot of times you're not writing the policy that day. So far we have needs assessment, educate, then do our research and narrow down plans and quote. And then finally, number 4, we're going to do a product presentation. Now, it could be products. They may still not even after the education, they still may want to look at a couple of different options. So you may be showing them a Medicare Advantage HMO, a Medicare Advantage PPO, and a Medicare Supplement Plan G with a drug plan. It may be, but a lot of times we want to, by this point, we're hoping we have narrowed down their desires and their needs to where we can limit the choices as much as possible. So hopefully that guides us to just one plan or a small selection of plans for them to review, ask us questions about to make their final decision. This is also going to provide confidence and clarity during this last step because we're not going to give them a menu option of 40 different plans at this point. We've already moved beyond that. Our job is to help filter down to what fits for them. So they're not going to feel as overwhelmed, and they're going to be confident because of the credibility you've established and the work you've put in. They're going to feel confident in their choice by the time you limit it down to 1, 2, 3 options for them. So those are the 4 basic components of any Medicare sale for somebody that is about to get on Medicare for the first time. It's a great market to be in. It is competitive because there's big dollars in it. People know that if you do it right from the beginning, you've got a much higher chance of retaining that client for years to come. Not to mention with Medicare Advantage, we get a double commission, so to speak, a much bigger commission. Somebody first gets on Medicare, and even if we sell a Medicare supplement, there's often carrier bonuses. They're allowed to pay bonuses on that product where we make more money if we write somebody that's turning 65 a lot of times than if we're just flipping somebody that's already on Medicare. I hope this was helpful. I hope it gets you started and provides some type of direction and foundation for having a successful career selling Medicare plans. Have a great day.